The question is, can you use Fuji X Weekly's film simulation recipes on non-Fujifilm cameras? The answer is no and yes. No, because the settings on Fuji Weekly's recipe are specifically for Fujifilm cameras, even for specific series of Fujifilm cameras. But yes, because apparently you can use Fuji X Weekly's film simulation recipes as starting points to transfer them to non-Fujifilm cameras. If you have Fujifilm cameras, then great. But if you don't have one and do not want to spend more money to buy Fujifilm cameras just to try Fujifilm simulation recipes, you can actually use your non-Fujifilm cameras to try them out. I have experimented with my Canon G12, Canon G1X, Olympus EP3, Lumix GX1, and Lumix GF3. Please feel free to check them out on my channel. Of course, the results might be a little bit different, but hey, film simulation recipes are about taste. Different camera brands might give different results, but the thing is, you might produce certain settings only on certain cameras. So instead of buying Fujifilm cameras to have that privilege of using film recipes, why don't we explore the cameras that we already have and seek that privilege within our cameras in hand? What you need to do is just understand the idea of a couple of settings of Fuji X Weekly's film simulation recipes. For example, you have this bright Kodak film simulation recipe from Fuji X Weekly. You have a couple of things here to set. This recipe is specifically for Fujifilm cameras with the X Trans 4 sensor. What you need to do is apply these settings to your non-Fujifilm cameras. This might be a little bit tricky, but the good news is you don't have to copy all of the settings because your camera might not have some of these settings. No problem with that. The foremost and also the most important settings in any simulation recipe, at least I think, is the white balance shift, or some call it white balance bracketing. So you want to start with that setting. Since this is the most important feature, you need to make sure that your non-Fujifilm camera has this feature. However, the white balance shift settings on Fujifilm cameras are a bit different and confusing compared to other camera brands. For example, for this bright Kodak recipe, the white balance is daylight with the shift +3 red and -7 blue. Let's compare the Fujifilm white balance shift with a couple of other camera brands. If we compare the Fujifilm white balance shift with that of Canon cameras, you might notice a different positioning and labeling. What you do with white balance shift is essentially customizing two things: the temperature and the tint setting. You can also find this setting in Lightroom as two sliders, as you can see on the screen at the bottom. The temperature is represented as a slide between cold and warm colors, or red and blue. The tint setting is represented by magenta and green slides. As you can see on the screen on Fujifilm cameras, the temperature setting is placed on the y-axis, while the tint setting is placed on the x-axis. On Canon cameras, it is the opposite. The temperature is on the x-axis, while the tint setting is on the y-axis, if that makes sense. The white balance shift on Lumix cameras is more similar to Canon cameras. However, on my Olympus EP3, the white balance shift is represented by these two sliders, making it more similar to the Lightroom. If we understand this idea, then for example, if we want to copy Fuji X Weekly film simulation on non-Fujifilm cameras, we just need to switch the white balance shift to match your camera brands. Here is an example of daylight white balance with the shift +3 red and -7 blue on both Fujifilm and Canon cameras. As you can see, the spot for +3 red and -7 blue is different in both cameras. And here is the real look of the same +3 red and -7 blue on the Fujifilm X-E1. You notice the spot is more on the bottom. Here is an example of the same setting, +3 red and -7 blue on the Canon G12. And here is the spot, and here the spot is more on the left side. And this is on the Lumix GX1, which has the exact +3 red and -7 blue located on the right side. And this is how +3 red and -7 blue will look on my Olympus EP3. Once you finish with the white balance settings, you can move to other settings. The most common settings that you would find on non-Fujifilm cameras are contrast, sharpness, saturation, and skin tone. Some camera brands also feature additional settings. For example, on Canon cameras, you can set the blue, green, and red colors separately. On Lumix and Olympus cameras, you get different styles that match the coloring of the film roll that you want to copy. Say, for example, Kodak Portra is known for portrait photography. In that case, you want to set the style as portrait. If you need punchy colors, then you can set the style to vivid. You might want to check some of my videos on trying to get that film look on different camera brands. Some of the recipes that I experimented with are inspired by Fuji X Weekly's film simulation recipes with some adjustments to match my taste. Well, the link is in the description. If you want more top secret hacks and tricks to transform your ancient cameras into Hollywood superstars, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join me on this photographic roller coaster. Until next time, keep snapping and keep it budget tight. Au revoir.